rappers, they're all so tough until you hear their real name.
Yeah, or until you see them at a puffy party.
Oh.
Then they're not tough no more. I'm surprised that the rap game is still alive after, because the masculinity that the rappers are supposed to portray, perform on me, and you get your deal. That was what I heard while I was on Empire about some of the people in the business. And Petey Pablo, you remember Petey Pablo?
I know who that is.
Petey Pablo, talented writer, singer. Him and Young Buck wrote a song called Ho Is Home. And in that song, back in about 2011 or 29 or something, because he called out all of the taking place at those parties and those people, he was kicked out of the music business. No radio station would play his stuff. So you look for Petey Pablo, he's not around anymore.
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at it. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. He's sitting there, just looking at it, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to.
Welcome back to your daily dose of scandal and glamour. Let's spill the tea on today's biggest celebrity stories. The music game can turn you into a superstar overnight, but it can just as easily wipe you off the map without warning. And when the industry decides you're done, it don't come with no public statement, just silence, cold silence. That's exactly what went down with Petey Pablo. Back in the early 2000s, this southern rap legend had everybody going wild. Remember folks spinning their shirts like helicopters? His tracks were blowing up everywhere, and his voice was the sound of the South. But just as quick as he came up, dude disappeared, like vanished from the spotlight without a trace. Now Terrence Howard is stepping in, and what he's saying? It's chilling. According to him, Petey didn't just fall off and he got taken out. Howard claims Petey was systematically shut down by the same industry that once lifted him up. He says they broke him down on purpose, all because he wouldn't bow to the pressure. No silence, no submission. And in this industry, that's a dangerous move. So maybe this wasn't just a fall from fame. Maybe it was a warning shot, a message to anyone else thinking about breaking the unspoken rules of the game. Petey Pablo's rise to fame wasn't smooth by any means. Dude came up from the trenches. Before the fame, he was locked up in the early 90s on robbery charges. But instead of letting that break him, he flipped the script and poured his energy into music. That's when fate stepped in, linking him with Timbaland, one of the coldest producers in the game at the time. Together, they lit the game on fire. In 2001, they dropped Raise Up, and it wasn't just a hit, it was a whole movement. That anthem had everybody screaming, North Carolina, come on and raise up, from coast to coast. It didn't matter if you were at a block party, a concert, or a college football game. That track had the South on lock. It peaked at #1. 25 on the Billboard Hot 100, and pushed Petey's debut album, Diary of a Sinner, first entry, all the way to a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Album. Not bad for a first-timer. By 2003, the album went gold, proving Petey wasn't just some flash in the pan. Then in 2004, he dropped his second album, Still Writing in My Diary, second entry. And that's where he gave us the monster hit Freak-a-Leak. That joint took over clubs, cars, and ringtones alike. It blasted up the Billboard Hot 100 to #7 and had everybody wildin' out. This was peak ringtone era, and Petey had the whole digital game on lock. He was everywhere. Bet, MTV, red carpets, award shows, and cooking up fire with stars like Ciara and Lil Jon. For a minute there, it looked like Petey Pablo was about to be the face of Southern hip-hop, but that spotlight didn't last long. Even after dropping 2 bangers and building a real fan base, Petey Pablo's career took a strange and sudden left turn. After 2004, it was like he vanished into thin air. No new singles, no features, no shows, no award appearances, nothing. The same dude who had clubs jumping and the South screaming was suddenly ghost. Meanwhile, other Southern rappers like T.I., Jeezy, and Ludacris were blowing up even more, riding that same wave Petey helped kickstart. So naturally, people started asking, What happened? Why would someone with back-to-back hits and a whole movement behind him just fall off the radar like that? Well, according to Terrence Howard, it wasn't a coincidence, and it definitely wasn't about talent or business mistakes. He says Petey's silence came after something way deeper, a refusal to fold to the system. Terrence has been bold in calling out what really goes down behind the scenes in the entertainment world. He's hinted that some artists get pressured to attend shady invite-only parties, keep quiet about what they see, or bend their morals just to stay in the circle. And when they don't, the doors start slamming shut, fast. That's what he says went down with Petey Pablo. Petey spoke up, questioned the way things were run, and straight up refused to play puppet to the big bosses. And in an industry that demands silence and obedience, that kind of rebellion gets you erased. And just like that, the industry cut him off. One minute Petey Pablo was everywhere, the next, he was blacklisted, treated like he didn't exist. No calls, no deals, no recognition. It was like they flipped a switch on him, but the real ones never forgot. Terrence Howard had a personal story that said everything about Petey's character. Back in 2005, at an event in LA, Howard found himself in a tight spot. Dude had forgotten his wallet and couldn't pay. No hesitation, no questions. Petey reached into his pocket and handed him $200 on the spot. Just like that. No cameras, no flex, just real. Terrence never forgot that moment. So years later in 2015, when he was at the top of his game, starring in Empire, the hottest show on TV at the time, the producers needed someone to play an inmate. And guess who came to his mind? Petey Pablo. That connection scored Petey a guest role on Empire, where he appeared as a fellow inmate alongside Terrence's character, Lucius Lyon. But it didn't stop there. Petey even wrote a track for the show, Snitch Biakse, which aired in the episode and earned him $15,000 in royalties. It wasn't a comeback, not even close, but it was something real, a quiet spotlight, a small bag, and most importantly, a thank you from a man who remembered who was there when nobody else was looking. Petey stayed solid, and that still means something. Even after the Empire spotlight, the industry still wasn't checking for Petey Pablo. No new deals, no spins on the radio, no festival invites, nothing. It was like they made up their minds to keep him out, no matter what. Then in 2010, Petey's name hit the headlines again, but this time for the wrong reasons. He got caught at Raleigh-Durham International Airport trying to bring a stolen loaded Smith & Wesson onto a flight. That mistake cost him big. He was slapped with federal gun charges and ended up serving nearly 3 years in prison. Now, on the surface, it looked like just another rapper fumbling the bag. But if you zoom out, the whole situation feels off. Other rappers, T.I., Lil Wayne, Meek Mill, they all did time and came out stronger. They had the industry waiting on them, arms wide open, ready to spin their prison time into a redemption story. But for Petey Pablo, it was the total opposite. His sentence wasn't framed as a comeback opportunity. It was treated like a career death sentence. No label support, no buzz, just silence. So what was the difference? The difference was backing. Petey had already been cut off before the arrest. He didn't have big-name managers fighting for him. No industry machine to clean things up or spin the narrative in his favor. That gun charge just gave the gatekeepers a perfect excuse to erase him completely. Terrence Howard has been loud about this. He's called out the industry's dirty game, where support ain't about right or wrong, but about control. And he's not the only one who sees it. Artists like Jaguar Wright, Orlando Brown, and even Kanye West have all aired out similar stories. Whispers of a shadowy elite system that decides who wins, who gets silenced, and who gets sacrificed. According to Terrence Howard, the entertainment industry has a cult-like energy, one where fame don't come free. It comes with a price on your soul. Howard's been real about it, saying actors and musicians are pushed to compromise themselves just to stay in the game. Whether it's for a role, a record deal, or even a seat at an award show, you're expected to play the part or get left behind. And Petey Pablo, he wasn't the first to get cut off for refusing to comply. And he definitely won't be the last. Start digging into the stories of young rappers once backed by industry powerhouses like Diddy, Jay-Z, or Birdman, and you'll see something sinister pop up. These weren't random nobodies. They had the talent, the look, the cosigns. But then, boom, momentum gone. Vanished like they never existed. No farewell, no closure, just silence. Take Shine, for example. Straight out of Belize, dude had it all. The voice, the realness, and Bad Boy behind him. His debut album went platinum, and he was being groomed to be Diddy's next big move in the late 90s. But then came that infamous 1999 nightclub shooting involving Diddy and Jennifer Lopez. Guess who took the hit? Shine, not Diddy. While Diddy walked away clean, Shine got slapped with a nearly 10-year sentence, and when he got out, the industry had moved on. Just like that. This ain't just bad luck, it's a pattern. By the time Shine got out of prison, the industry had already moved on. And Diddy? He never really did anything to bring his career back to life. Some folks say Shine's silence in court was bought, like he took the fall to protect the real power players. Others think he was sacrificed. Plain and simple, so the brand could stay clean while someone else paid the price. And Shine wasn't the only one who got burned under Bad Boy Records. Remember G-Dep? Another bad boy artist who had serious potential. In the early 2000s, he dropped Special Delivery. That track was a straight-up street anthem, but behind the music, he was carrying a heavy secret. In 2010, out of nowhere, he walked into a police station and confessed to a murder he'd committed years earlier. A cold case nobody was even checking for anymore. That confession got him hit with 15 years to life. And once again, Diddy barely said a word. No support, no effort to help. People couldn't help but notice the pattern. How come so many artists tied to Bad Boy end up with tragic or bizarre endings, while Diddy just keeps thriving, untouched? And it ain't just Diddy. Over in Jay-Z's camp, you've got folks raising eyebrows too. Look at Memphis Bleek. He was once hyped as Jay's protege, supposed to be next in line to carry the Rockefeller legacy. But even with multiple albums and major backing, his career stalled. No scandals, no drama, just faded into the background like he never had the crown waiting for him. Jay-Z once said that Bleek was always one hit away, but let's be real, that hit never came. And critics have pointed out that Jay never really pushed Bleek to be a true solo star. He stayed in the shadows, always standing next to greatness, but never getting a real shot to step into the spotlight. A loyal soldier, but never the king. Then you've got Emile, one of the first ladies of Rockefeller. She popped up on major tracks like Can I Get a with Jay-Z and Ja Rule, and for a minute, it looked like she was about to blow up. She was getting real promo at first, but as soon as her debut album dropped, poof, she disappeared. Just like that. Years later, Emile opened up in interviews, hinting that misogyny and shady politics in the industry had a lot to do with why she walked away. She said the fame came with a toxic energy, the kind that eats you alive if you don't play the game. Whether she dipped out on her own or got pushed out, her story shows how fast the industry will throw away female talent when they're no longer convenient. And when you zoom out, it's the same story on repeat. Young black artists, raw, hungry, talented, plucked from nothing by industry bosses, promised the world, and then left broke, forgotten, or locked up. And the names involved? Always familiar. Diddy, Jay-Z, Birdman. The same power players pop up over and over. Whether it's about control, exploitation, or something even darker, one thing is crystal clear. This ain't just a rough business. It's ruthless. And once you stop serving the system, you're not just dropped, you're erased. And here's where it gets even more twisted. 'Cause this pattern, it doesn't just stop at forgotten names and shelved albums. Some of these artists, the ones who went off script, started speaking out, and the fallout was immediate. Suddenly they were labeled as crazy, unstable, or washed up. That's the system's favorite trick. Discredit the voice before people start listening. Look at Jaguar Wright. She didn't just fade out quietly. She blew the whistle. She exposed alleged abuse, shady contracts, and called out some of the biggest names in R&B and hip-hop. And what happened? The industry turned on her fast. She was painted as bitter, unstable, anything but credible. But people listening closely started connecting the dots. Even Orlando Brown, who many dismissed due to his erratic behavior, said things that echoed what others had been whispering for years about powerful figures, dark dealings, and what really happens behind closed doors. Sure, his delivery was wild, but some of the content had people raising eyebrows. Was he really lying, or just speaking truths the industry didn't want out? And of course, there's Kanye, one of the biggest artists of our time. But once he started calling out specific names, questioning contracts, and breaking ranks with the elite, suddenly he's out of control, off his meds, and blacklisted. He went from mogul to meme, and that switch didn't happen by accident. It's the same cycle. Speak up, get shut out. These stories keep stacking, and the pattern keeps repeating. So when Terrence Howard talks about a system that demands silence and punishes truth, It's not some conspiracy, it's the rule book. And now people are really starting to pay attention because the connections run deep. When you line up the careers that crashed, the sudden arrests, the mental breakdowns, and the people who went from everywhere to nowhere overnight, it all starts to look a little too calculated. Terrence Howard's not the only one pulling back the curtain. Dave Chappelle famously walked away from $50 million at the height of his success. And why? Because he said the pressure to conform got too real. He told Oprah straight up, they tried to break him, make him wear a dress, humiliate him on screen, turn him into a puppet. When he refused, boom, he's crazy. They sent him to Africa, not a studio. Sound familiar? Terrence says P.D. Pablo faced the same silent punishment. The difference is, P.D. didn't have the same reach or support system to fight back. No Netflix deal, no stand-up stage, just silence. And that silence, it was engineered. What makes this darker is that the system doesn't just push people out, it profits from their fall. P.D.'s music still gets played, his image still circulates, but he sees none of the rewards. It's like the industry uses you up, then milks your legacy while you fade into nothing. And when someone tries to speak up about it, whether it's Jaguar, Orlando, Kanye, or Terrence, they get labeled, dragged, or erased altogether. At this point, it's not about if there's a machine running things behind the scenes, it's how deep it really goes. With more entertainers stepping out and dropping bombs about exploitation, pressure, and straight-up manipulation, it's getting harder to brush off P.D. Pablo's story like it's just some random fall from grace. His rise and fall, it ain't an isolated case. It's part of a pattern, a system that builds you up, shines the spotlight, gives you the mic, and then snatches it all away the second you stop playing by their rules. One wrong move, one refusal to comply, and boom, you're done. P.D.'s story isn't just about one man's fall. It's a peek into a machine that chews up talent, spits them out, and dares the world to forget. But now, thanks to folks like Terrence Howard, who've seen the game from the inside and aren't afraid to call it out, the truth is starting to slip through the cracks. So now the real question is, what really happened to P.D. Pablo? Was he just another artist who fumbled the bag with bad decisions? Or was he targeted, a victim of an industry that doesn't tolerate resistance? Because when you look at the silence, the blacklist, the sudden fall, it doesn't feel like bad timing. It feels like he stepped on the wrong toes, and the system made sure we all forgot him. But not anymore. People are watching now, and we're remembering. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to stay in the loop with all the latest tea. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and I'll catch you in the next video.